What's up, guys? Carnivore Invictus here, looking more like the old carnivore Kratos of the back in the day. I got the beard going, looking pretty impressive. It's very temporary though. The fire department has allowed us to grow a beard for the months of November and December in exchange for making donations to charity, which is pretty cool. But after the new year, I will have to shave it again and be completely hairless in the face. But anyway, it looks pretty badass right now. I'm pretty happy with it. I got into a discussion. I get into these discussions all the time, and I want to discuss the difference between being black-pilled and just seeing reality. A lot of people are very doom and gloom about the way things are. But they don't really know why. They're freaking out and they're scared and there's no hope and and then I have very similar beliefs about everything, but it's more based on just the reality that I see. I'm just not going to be gaslit or guilted into having hope when they're, first of all, I said this a million times. Hope is absolute. Hope is a psyop. All right. I mean, like it's a form of mind control that they put into you. And if you watch all the movies where it's a good and evil battle, the good always wins. The savior always comes along. The good guys always figure out the way to win in the end. I remember when Avengers: Infinity War, or was it Endgame? Endgame came on, and Thanos won and wiped out half the human race. Everybody was so pissed off, and I was like, finally a movie that represents somewhat of a reality, because the good guys don't always win. And that's just because you went to government school where you read government history, and their version of history was that they won all the wars and that they were always the good guys. And it's as simple as good versus evil. It was the good guys in World War II versus the evil, the Germans and the Japanese. They were just evil. Why were they evil? Well, they were just evil. Nobody ever looks into World War I and the Treaty of Versailles and the circumstances that led up to World War II, which any honest student of history saw. Someone was asked, where was Hitler born? And she said at Versailles, at the Treaty of Versailles, where the Germans were just completely screwed over and they were pissed off. And that's where the zealots like Hitler were able to rise to power, because they were preaching about national sovereignty and expanding the homeland so that they would never, Churchill put a starvation blockade on the Germans that lasted after the armistice. He starved them. Churchill was a very bad person. And that was a big reason why the Germans wanted to expand the scope of their country, or their control, is so that they had the natural resources so that other countries couldn't starve them. So anyway, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but history and the culture is all very, very carefully, dictated so that you think that you really don't have to do anything, because the good guys always win in the end. Just relax. Everything's okay. Have hope. And, hope, it's okay to have, I saw this one quote that said, hope has blood on its knuckles. And it's filthy, because you've got down in the trenches, and you have hope for a better future, and you're working for that. You're not just sitting around watching football and drinking beer saying, oh, Trump's going to save the day. RFK and Elon and the Doge, the extra layer of bureaucracy that's going to tame government bureaucracy. You have no idea how government works, because you went to a government school where they taught you everything that is ever good and just came from government, and that without it there would be chaos. And we just need to work within the system to fix things. So I am not black-pilled. I had a lot of hope for humanity before COVID. Because right before COVID, if you remember, maybe the 3 or 4 months before COVID, Epstein was suicided, and everybody in the country knew why he was killed, because he had dirt on the Clintons and dirt on the power elites, and he was murdered. He didn't commit suicide. Everybody knew Epstein didn't kill himself. He was murdered. And I was like, man, finally people are starting to get it, man. They're really starting to wake up. And then COVID hit, and boom, it was like a switch went off, and everybody turned retarded. And I'm like, what is going on here? How are you people falling for such an obvious psyop? Because it wasn't just an obvious psyop in, what they were telling you. They were telling you if you had stage 4 cancer and you died and you tested positive for COVID, that was a COVID death. People died on motorcycle accidents and gunshot wounds to the head, literally. They're like, oh, that's a COVID death. Everybody knew it was fake. Everybody knew that the people being put on ventilators were dying because they were being misdiagnosed. Doctors are coming out saying, do not put people on ventilators, you're going to murder them. And the government was paying hospitals to literally murder people. You got the more money, the more sick your patients were, including death, the more money they got. They got like $39,000 for every dead patient. So of course they're going to put them on a ventilator. And everybody knew this because they told you. And that's the thing about things, like nothing is secret. You know what I mean? Like, people aren't waking up. You know what I mean? Like, and we're not, like, I'm not in this Alex Jones camp where, all we have to do is let them know that we know, and then they won't do it anymore. That's absolutely idiotic. They're telling you what they're doing. They're telling you in their white papers and their World Economic Forum releases and their speeches. They're literally bragging about what they're going to do. Agenda 21, replacement migration. It's all on the UN website, and then they gaslight you and say, oh, that's a right-wing racist conspiracy theory. And people are waking up to now you're waking up, now that it's convenient, now that it's safe, and now that it's safe to wake up and you have nothing to lose, suddenly, oh my God, I can't believe that they did this to us. And you don't know what you're waking up from, and therefore you're not waking up. And after COVID, I took a very, very deep dive into dark occult mind control, trauma-based mind control. And that's where I realized, what we were up against. We are in a lot of trouble because people's minds and spirits are captured. Most people are spiritually dead. And when you're spiritually dead, there's not going to be, you're just basically a puppet on the string. They create altars in the mind, and they can trigger you anytime they want. And maybe you don't fall for the next virus scam that they're coming out, this bird flu or disease X, but they'll get you some other way. They'll bomb a city and blame it on Iran or Russia, and everybody will rally around the flag, just like 9/11, which was fake. And because they all want to be part of something. You want to be part of something, and everybody, and I always said, this is the biggest form of mind control that they have over people, is the absolute fear and terror that people have of the opinion of their peers. They are so afraid of losing social status and prestige that they'll just do anything. They'll do anything to keep from being, like, when you walk into Walmart and everybody knows it's bullshit, but they're wearing masks anyway. You know why? The reason they're wearing masks is because they're afraid that people will look down on them. They're afraid that people will think they're a bad person, that they're mean. And then eventually they have to almost subconsciously buy into the whole thing just to justify the fact that they're cowards. And then, like, they see you walking around the store without a mask on, and they hate you because you are not, you're not a coward. You're not kowtowing. You're making them look bad. So I am not black-pilled. I just don't have hope. Because first of all, like I said, hope is a psyop, and secondly, there's no reason to have hope. What has changed fundamentally in the last 4 years? People voted. People are always voting. You voted yourself into this mess, and the whole idea, the whole definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. What you're looking forward to, what you're celebrating as if it's already happened, or a lot of people are, anyway, is something that has literally never been done in the entire history of government, the 6,000 plus years of government. Government has never shrank. Government has never dismantled itself, unless the entire civilization or society just collapses under its own grotesque bureaucratic weight, which is not much of a victory. You're talking about the Soviet Union, you're talking about the Roman Empire, you're talking about suffering, Dark Ages kind of things. So that probably will happen. That's probably how it's going to happen. But it will be a controlled demolition. And that's where a lot of these new age people are saying, no, it's not the end of the world, it's the end of the illusion. And I'm like, yeah, but except they're doing it on purpose. This isn't them just benign stupidity. They are purposely destroying this country because they want an outcome that they can take advantage of. It's called the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. It's a controlled demolition. It's not just them fucking everything up and they're out of control. They want this country to collapse. They want our currency to collapse. They want to collapse our food supply. They're doing it on purpose. And that is nothing to, that's nothing to brag about. That's nothing to be excited about or look forward to. It's not going to be good. I follow this Native American guy, Joseph White Eagle, on Facebook, and he says that the world has to be purified and that the ones who survive will bring about a better world. And now that I can buy into. The world will be purified, and it's possible. It's conceivable to me that evil won't ultimately prevail because they'll just eat themselves. They'll destroy themselves, being evil and stupid that they are. Because ultimately, there's an intelligence behind it. It's extraordinarily intelligent. It's genius what they're doing, but there's no emotional intelligence behind it, and that makes them very, very stupid. And it's possible that ultimately their greed and disgust and self-loathing will cause them to destroy themselves. But it ain't going to be good for the majority of people, the vast majority of people. They intend to kill you. So they don't really care if you ride your tractors through the streets. They don't care if you protest. No farmers, no food. You're trying to get them to know what they know. They know that if they take the food away, that they take the farms away, there won't be any food. That's the point. They don't want you to have food. They don't want you to have meat, especially. And the food that they want you to have they want it to be plant-based, genetically modified, spray full of filth, and also bugs. And you got to read the tea leaves here, because all of the major meat producers are heavily invested in those things, and they're all members of the World Economic Forum. So, and the economy has been inverted to such an extent because they own everything. You know what I mean? A capitalist free market society can only function when, there's distribution of ownership, you know what I mean? But when they created and then everybody depends on each other. They need profits. A corporation needs profits to survive. They don't need that anymore because they own everything. What do they need profits for? So they don't need you anymore to make them profits. That's why they're culling you. Because when they created the Federal Reserve and all these other central bank fiat currency monetary systems back in the 20th century mostly, they slowly used that money that they can print up at will to buy everything. They own education, they own medication, they own the food, they own the money, they own the government, they own the military, they own the police, they own it all. They own the schools. I don't know if I said that or not. They own literally everything, and they don't need you anymore. They have AI and machines, and they need just enough people to run those. And if you read Agenda 21, places where I'm at right now will be completely shut off to humans and rewilded. It'll be like a giant wildlife refuge with the only humans living in the smart cities. And then, of course, the global elites, that very tiny, infinitesimally small percentage of the population that run everything. They can go wherever they want. But the slaves will basically be confined to the smart cities, and all of the rest of us will be. It's the Hunger Games. You ever saw the Hunger Games? That's a fictionalized version of Agenda 21. So if you want to know what Agenda 21 is, watch the Hunger Games. Watch the first one. They got the districts, the FEMA districts, and everybody is starving except for in the cities. All the elites live in the cities, and they're all just completely morally debauched and spiritually debauched, and absolutely utterly clueless and aloof to the suffering of other people. And that's the future. That's the future that they've been bragging about. So I'm not black-pilled. I'm just seeing what I see. And the only way that we're going to get out of this, you keep trying to change the system from within. That's what the problem is. You keep voting for people who are going to try and change things as if that ever happens, as if that has ever happened. It's not ever going to happen. The only way you're really going to change this is if everybody exits the establishment matrix. You have to unplug from it completely. You have to get out of the currency. You have to get out of and first and foremost, we really need an alternative counter economy in energy and food, because the globalists own all of it. They own the energy, they own the food, and you think that you're never going to eat bugs. Well, you'll eat bugs when they decide they don't want you to have meat, and you'll be like, no, I'll just eat meat, and then you'll go to the grocery store and there won't be meat. That's the problem. You're not going to have a choice. You think you're just going to decide who you're going to obey and what you're going to obey, and it doesn't work like that anymore, because it's the corporations that control everything now. They don't want you to have meat. You won't have meat. Where are you going to get it from? Small farms? Well, the government is there to really make life difficult for the small farms, and they're dropping like flies. So that's the reality of it. And you have to look at reality, and I don't really see a lot of people building those counter economies and energy and food. And everybody's just trying to work within the same system, and as long as you stay within the system, it's going to annihilate us. It's the way it is. And I would do more if I could, and that's a sad situation as well. People want to have hope within this system because they don't really. It's very, very difficult to work outside of the system because you need a lot of extra capital. You need land, and you need manpower, and you need a network that will be able to fight off the bureaucrats and the government when they try and shut you down, because you just can't pay taxes, and you can't pay fees, and you can't obey crippling totalitarian edicts that make it impossible for you to earn a living and survive. You have to start disobeying. And look what the farmers are doing in like Britain. Are they disobeying? No, they're saying stop oppressing us. They're driving tractors through town, and the people don't care. People in charge don't care. What they would care about is if you just said no. And that was the whole problem with COVID. All everybody had to do was say no, and the whole thing would have went away. If everybody had said no, nobody would have lost their job, nobody would have been arrested, nobody would have suffered at all. But everybody was too afraid. They all put themselves out on an island and say, I can't afford to lose my job. I can't afford to herp-a-derp-derp. I have to obey this. What am I supposed to do? I have to send my kids to school. So they have to wear a mask and blah, blah, blah. And you know what I mean? Like, meanwhile, I literally stocked up on bushcrafting supplies, because if I lost everything, which I was prepared to do, I was going to go live out in the woods the rest of my life. I didn't care. There are fates worse than death, people. And people don't get that. People don't get that. They are so attached to this world and the material of this world, and they are petrified to lose it. And that hasn't changed. So, that's the reality of it. Is that black-pilled, or is that just looking at reality? I ask you, just looking at reality. You have to look reality in the face and see what you see, especially if you're ever going to change things. You can't be delusional about the way things are, because then that's a misdiagnosis, and you won't be able to treat the problem. You'll just keep on doing the things that you're doing, and things will just keep getting worse. And it's an evil that is so terrible that most people just can't wrap their heads around it, you know what I mean? Because if they did, it means they would have to upheave their entire lives. They can't watch TV anymore. They can't hang out with their friends and drink beer and watch football anymore. that have to start stocking up on food and finding ways to homeschool their kids and to build, food systems. Like going in together to buy land and raise cows or chickens or whatever, lamb, anything. And nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. So that's the reality as I see it. I don't really think that anyone can dispute that, and give me some reason to put any hope into what's actually going on, what's actually really going on, not what you're pretending is going on. So, people who say there's a great awakening from what? What are you awakening from? Because the people who understand that COVID was a psyop now, first of all, they've never apologized or said, hey, I was wrong and I feel stupid. Second, they don't understand the psychological mechanisms at play that made them fall for such an obvious psyop. So they'll do it again. And there's no reason to believe they won't do it again. So I'm going into workout. Just wanted to get that out of the way. I'm not a pacifist. I'm not sticking my head in the sand. I'm not broken. I'm tired. I've screamed from the rooftops for the last 15 years plus. And it's all it serves to do now is just poison my vibration, stress me out. I'm not going to do that anymore. These might be my final days on earth, and I'm going to get myself right with God. And instead of being a lifeboat, I'm going to be a lighthouse. And if people are drawn to my message, come talk to me, come ask me, come read what I'm saying. But I'm not going to go out of my way and freak out and be an activist anymore. I just don't think it serves anything. It doesn't do any good, and it doesn't do anything except make me stressed out, and that's just not the way I want to be. Love you guys.